Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Bagar Kadash. Double honors to the elders, apostles, of Great Millstone, preaching this word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, that be like unto the speckled bird, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. I say shalom to your Akim out there. And this is another in the news on this June the 17th, 2022. And this is a quick sit-down lesson that I wanted to bring out. Another update, once again, about, these nations rising against nations, increasing more than ever. And the title of this lesson is going to be Nations Shall Rise Against Nations. And this is a news article from the Associated Press. And this is from MSN.com. And this was published about 5 hours ago. And the highlight of this news article, and it reads from Associated Press, and it reads, Rwanda says Congolese soldier cross border and open fire. A Kigali, Rwanda's military, and says a Congolese soldier crossed the border and began shooting at Wakanda security forces and civilians before being shot dead. The latest escalations, tensions between the countries. Wow, this is my first time hearing about these two countries had some type of conflict with one another. Guess you learn something every day, even though it might not mean a lot much to other people's, but it is what it is. But continue on with the reading. It says a Rwanda Defense Force statement says the unidentified soldier crossed the border Friday morning in the Rwanda district and injured 2 Rwanda police officers. The statement said a Rwanda national police officer fired in self-defense and the Congolese soldier was killed. And it says in a statement, the Rwanda statement says Congolese authorities have been informed the border officials from both countries were at the scene. Rwanda has asked that the incident be investigated by a body of military experts from the regional states. The situation at the border is now calm. Rwanda's statement says. Oh, what's up, man? We're all hat. We're clothes. We're all hats for your ass. My little Stephen Curry sweater.
In the back.
Yeah.
Headphone back here. Yeah, what is it?
Right here.
Charge piece too?
Yeah.
You a black wood.
I think it's fine.
Bet. Might still be in that drill.
Oh. See if I put it in my. I'll probably put it in the bag I had right here. Let's see. Hold just a second. Be right back momentarily at the sit down video. Doing something right quick. Salaki. Bear with me one moment.
Man. Find. It's hard to find them damn charts.
Slovakia. I was trying to find a charge for my brother. But yeah, continuing on with this news article. Slovakia for taking so long. But I'm gonna read on. It says a Congo government spokesperson confirmed an incident but gave no details. It says the decades of old tensions between Rwanda, which has had one of Africa's most effective militaries, and Congo, one of the continent's largest and most troubling countries, have spiked along their shared border a few hours' drive from Rwanda's capital. Alarm has reached the point where Kenya's president is urging the immediate deployment of a new create regional forces to eastern Congo to keep the peace. It says each side has accused the others of incursion. Congo now speaks to suspend all agreements with Rwanda. If Rwanda wants war, it will have war. A spokesperson for the military government of Congo's North Kivu province told thousands of protesters on Wednesday. Right, and that goes into the uproars of the people as well too. You're going to see a continuation of that as well too. Matter of fact, since they mentioned that, in the news article, uproars. Slovakia, if I spelled that wrong. Yep, this is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 9, verse 3. And therefore, when there shall be seen uproars in the people in the world, right? Because you're seeing the increase of the uproars in the people in the world, Either it's them going against one nation, either it's the nations going against one another, the different kingdoms and nations going against one another, or they're going against their political leaders and their political figures. They opposing what laws and decrees they sign into law. And the citizens of those countries disagree with their political leaders and figures, Just like in the book of 2nd Ezra 15 and verse 16, I'm about to bring out as well too. Because you're going to see an increased sedition among man as well too. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, there's going to be continual increase of sedition among man, and I'm going to bring that out as well too. Verse 16. Matter of fact, I'm gonna start at 15. 2nd Ezra 15 and verse 15. For the sword and that destruction draw nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against one another with swords in their hands, right? Because the modern day sword is the weapon, Just like in ancient times, the modern day sword was the weapon. Now in new modern day times, the modern day sword is the gun, the weapon, And we're seeing that with these nations clashing with one another, even if they don't have weapons or guns or whatever, They clashing against their government, their political leaders. They opposing at an all-time high of these laws and restricted laws of these citizens of these countries. They doesn't like, they be up arms about it, and they do heavy protests. That's why you're seeing heavy protests around the world in different parts of the country, around the world. You're going to see, even though we're so used and accustomed of hearing about protests and uproars in the world, but it's going to increase at a higher rate like never before, seen, on this planet Earth, because it's going to increase more and more and more. And the division between the nations is going to increase more and more as well too. Even if they might have a little momentarily of peace or whatever, try to calm the tensions down between these nations, but it's going to increase more and more. Just like you had these nations have these long-standing border conflicts, same just like with the Syrian border, the cross-border conflicts between, Syria and Israel, similarities. and then between India and China, you know, and then Israel and Palestine and Hamas and all that, for an examples, and then new escalations between Israel and Iran. So these are just prime examples of many things of, you know, there's going to be sedition among men. There's going to be sedition among the nations as well, too, you know. Not just only a small group of people going against another group of people. I mean, you're going to see that as well, too. You know, you're going to see that on all forms of ways, you know. That's why it's going to be an increase of sedition among men, you know. Drawing swords one another, which is the modern day gun, the weapon, you know, modern day. And I'm gonna go to verse 16. Second Esdras chapter 15, verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men, invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor their princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power right. You're gonna see an increase of that, of these nations or these citizens in these countries, even though they're going to have sedition amongst one another, and then they're going to set their sights on these political leaders and political figures. You know, they're going to do more increase of protests about that for equal rights, equal pay, or anything in that category. You know, because they're going to be up in arms. You know, they're going to have uproars, and, you know, going to have huge protests about it, you know. So, because we're definitely living in those signs, or these things are definitely increasing, you know. And I'm going to bring out Luke 21 and 25, because it's been like disgressive nations. And the disgressive nations definitely been increasing these last days as well, too. And this is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the seas and the rage waves of roaring, right? Because we've been seeing the increase of these perplexities of these nations. They not liking what they're seeing, you know. That's why they might clash against one another, clash against their government, political leaders, political figures. You know, uproars and the people in the world. You know, that's what you're seeing, the increase of this, the more divisions between the nations, even though they have some peace on both sides. It's like an on and off thing, you know, and it's going to increase more and more with the on and off situations of the nations against one another as well, too. So, yeah, you know, we're seeing these things, you know. So with that, you know, I just wanted to bring out this little quick sit-down lesson, you know, in regards to the nations rise against nations are increasing more than ever as I bring these out in the news articles, sometimes daily or a day or two, as I do sit-down lessons on these news in regards to the nations against nations and different kingdoms against different kingdoms are increasing more than ever, you know, and it's going to increase more and more between these nations, even if it might be a small mistake. They try to cover it up and say, oh, it was just a mistake, you know, we trying to create the peace. But sometimes, you know, hey, these nations are still going against one another, even if they had a long rival conflict between one another. Hey, that's why it says in the book of Matthew 24, verse 7, nations shall rise against nations and the kingdom against kingdoms. And that's where we're seeing is being increased more than ever, you know. And the sedition among men invading one another. Hey, that's in the book of Second Esdras 15, verse 15 through verse 16 that I brought out those scriptures and relates to that, you know. And we're going to see these things increase even more and more. The sedition amongst the nations, the sedition amongst, you know, these citizens going against their political leaders and political figures. They're going to stand in their power the best way they can to overthrow the leadership political leaders, you know, of these certain laws that's been written into law of those countries where these citizens may be at around the planet Earth. So you're gonna see the upwards of that as well too. Just like Sri Lanka, they like in the financial crisis, food crisis, and then like a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, just like over there in Iran, you know, they had like a little famine, a particular little short famine of food shortages and stuff like that. That's why it says in the book of, I'm not trying to get off topic, but just like in it says in the book of Amos 8 and 11, you know, there shall be a famine in the land, for there shall be nor thirst for water or bread, but the hearing of the words of the Lord, you know. And that famine of the word, that's coming as well too. And we're seeing it increase, you know, in these last days, you know, with the hyperinflation, cost of living, you know, markets crashing consistently, you know, on an everyday basis. You know, all these global events we're seeing around the world, you know, is going to increase more and more and more. You know, like I mentioned before, the upwards of the people, sedition among men, the love of many shall wax cold, roughly paraphrase. You know, it's reference in regards to that. You know, we're going to see consistently these things take place on the planet Earth, and that's what we're seeing, you know, because we're living in biblical prophecies. We're living in biblical prophecy times, you know, and it's going to increase more and more and more than ever, you know. So with that, I hope this quick sit-down lesson was edifying through the spirit, power, grace, and mercy of Yahweh Yahushua. And I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rakar Double honors to the elders, apostles, great millstone, pushing his word, truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, pushing his word, truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, that be like unto the speckled bird, pushing the word, truthfully and sincerely. And until next time, I will say shalom and above.